This is an unpopular opinion, but most small businesses are unequipped to scale and succeed to the level of even $1 million EBITDA to $6 million EBITDA. I've worked for companies as large as 700 million that are now 1.2 billion in valuation. They follow certain basic principles after they've gotten from that good to great, the good to great on the Jim Collins side. But you as the business owner, you're struggling because you really essentially created a job for yourself. You created something that makes you work 80 hours a week, that frustrates you to no end about employees, that has you constantly complaining to your wife about how terrible everything is, and you're not catching a break. So really, you should have gone back into the corporate world and collected a $200,000 a year salary to do whatever you were good at originally before you created the business. There's three main mistakes that I see the small business owners make that $700 million companies are not. So welcome back to another episode of Forward Facing Business. This is the show for businesses that are making $1 million to $6 million EBITDA that want to grow into the $10 to $12 million EBITDA range. I'm your host, Chad Tabry. Let's dive into it. Three mistakes that I see small businesses make on a daily basis. And when I say small business, I'm talking about honestly anything that's $1 to $40 million. So we're lumping in mid-market here. It's the same traps over and over again. And if you understand them now, you have an advantage because you can build systems and processes and put them in place before you're trapped. Do you know what I mean? I was at a company once where they were paying $100,000 a year for Salesforce.com and $100,000 a year for an overlapping system. That's $200,000 a year. But because they were a private equity portfolio company and because they were trying to be discreet here, and because they were X amount of years into their cycle and wanted to sell before that, they couldn't change anything. Do you know what I mean? The CFO walked into my office and she told me, I'm not going to swap out an ERP in the middle of a PE cycle. So they were painted into a corner, but you being a little more agile at this point in the sub 1 million or the $1 billion to $6 million range, you can correct these mistakes early on. So number one, small businesses are pretending to be busy. And I freaking hate this. I hate this more than anything when I'm consulting for small businesses, when I'm working with small businesses, when I try to give them an edge. You have this owner that thinks that sliding down the fire pole all day is what makes him or her valuable. I remember interviewing once for the first startup that I worked at, and he even told me, he said he felt like he was in a pitched battle every day. And I believe him. I think that was his true belief, that everyone was out to get him. Well, honestly, it's a silly mistake. First off, it stems from insecurity, especially in the mid-market world. You have a lot of mid-market employees that are making $70,000 to $120,000, and they're trying to make themselves seem important or make themselves look important. They ask questions just to disrupt things, just to be difficult. You've got owners that feel like they're not valuable as a company or actually thriving as an entrepreneur unless they're hustling and on that grind. Listen, let me tell you something I learned the hard way when I had offices in Sydney, Tokyo, Dublin, and Denver. That's a round-the-clock model. They call it follow the sun. So that gave you 24-hour coverage operationally 6 days a week, technically, not 7. What I had to find out real quick as the director is that if I had my emails on my phone or if I was taking messages from all these people, I could never catch a break, right? I would always be working. So I just took it off. And then I started working with the managers who worked for me to establish Swimlanes for them, to put in, this is why Peter Drucker's great, because he recognized processes and he also recognized, he was ahead of his time in this. He recognized the intellectual equity that the intellectual assets that you're paying for in that employee's mind. So he would tell you that the processes and the output and the outcomes matter more than the functions, more than the form over the function trap is what he's talking about most of the time. But I set up those swim lanes for these managers so that they knew what they could operate within. And I told them if there's an emergency, you could text me up to 10 p.m. But after that, you're on your own. You have to figure it out. And then I took that with me into every other company I went. And you didn't find me working a 60-hour week. You didn't find me working an 80-hour week because I knew that that's unimpressive. In fact, when I meet small business owners and they tell me they're working 80 hours a week, I am unimpressed. I think you're doing something wrong. When I meet mid-market employees, I almost know 90% of the time I'm unimpressed anyway. But when they tell me about all the things that they're working on or all the things that are scattering their attention, I am unimpressed because it's inefficient, because it's not effective. It's not doing the right thing at the right times to get maximum output done for your business. Do you know what I mean? Secondly, and this is where small businesses falter compared to the $700 million businesses. But I'm going to give you the secret now, and you can change your whole life essentially with it. Big businesses run in a quote to cash model. And for some of you, that's the first time you've ever heard this. So I'm going to put a little illustration on the screen here, but think of a cycle and think of the dollar bill that starts with meeting a prospect, meeting someone who would be a good fit for your business, talking to him or her, seeing if she has the budget and the desire and the authority to buy your solution, and then working her through a whole sales process that starts with sending out a quote or a proposal. For some of you guys that are in government, that's you would be answering those requests for pricing or those requests for quotes. Okay, then track that piece of paper and that dollar bill, and now a purchase order came in. The purchase order is essentially that prospect saying, "Dear small business owner, please charge me money." For some of you, that looks like it's on an online form and they just swipe a credit card. They've consented. You guys have made a commercial agreement. You send an offer, they send acceptance, there was consideration, the money in that case, and so you guys are now have an agreement for you to fulfill this service and them to give you the money. After the purchase order comes in, you have to collect that money. If you got it on a credit card or cash in advance, you're ahead of the game. But for a lot of the businesses in the larger fulfillment dollar amounts, like I just had to do one for $3,400 for a company, actually. I went and wrote a check. You're going to invoice that prospect next, right? And then the invoice will have terms on it. All that's part of business. We can go on that another day. And then that prospect is going to give you money, whether it's through ACH, check, credit card again, if you put on a surcharge on top of that. But then that cycle is complete. You went all the way from quote to cash. Now, those four functions, quoting and lead generation leading up to quoting, is your sales cycle. These are salespeople that are doing that. They're qualifying prospects. They're drumming up business. They're delivering quotes. Salespeople walk this piece of paper all the way through to the purchase order. Normally, when you get a purchase order, a salesperson has closed his or her business. She's going to get a commission on the annualized contract value, or however you're measuring your ARR or the total contract value, whatever. And then from there, your operations and fulfillment team is going to take over. So if you do home builds, then you're going to start ordering material. You're going to start lining up contractors. You're going to go get permits, et cetera. You're going to start fulfilling that service. Does that make sense? If you're an HVAC provider, you're going to show up to the person's house. You're going to go do the service. If you deliver antivirus solutions via online delivery, you're going to send them their key code. You're going to send them their download link, et cetera. But the point is, this is your product team and your operations team that is doing the part of your business that delivers what you are as a business. And then it's going to hand over to your finance team to deal with accounts receivable, accounts payable, et cetera. If you just shift your mindset right now as a small business owner and start focusing on quote to cash, then you realize that you're not actually in the business. You're the business owner. You realize you're not actually in the business of building homes. You're in the business of cultivating and shepherding and guiding your quote to cash machine. All right. The last thing, the third thing that small business owners don't do, which blows my mind, is they don't do the actual math on what it takes. I'm lucky. I have a friend who runs a $6 million business, and he asked me the funniest question last night. He wanted to know, I won't give you his business idea. I don't want anyone to steal this. He wanted to know, though, there was this affluent service, and he wanted to know if one man could do it in a van and scaled it up to $1 million. So he did the math real quick. We were smoking cigars. We were at our entrepreneur meetup, and he did the math real quick. Okay, $1 million divided by 52 weeks. You'd have to make X amount per week. And I can only charge, let's say, $300 for this service. So quickly, very quickly, we realized there's no way on earth that he'd be able to make the $1 million with this affluent neighborhood service he wanted to do. So that's real math. But if you look at another video, I did real math for a cleaning business to see how to make $1 million in a cleaning business. With the cleaning service, we did the math on $5,000. And when you do $5,000 times 17, you're getting $85,000 a month times 12. You're at your $1 million and $20,000. So the point is, when you do real math as a real business owner, you have to start with your end goal in mind first. Then you need to figure out with your average sale price, because everyone should know what their average sale price is, or the lifetime value of your customers, another way of looking at that. How many deals do you need to get to make that $1 million, right? So let's say hypothetically, it's this guy was 17 times 12. So let's say it's 204 deals you need to get done for the year. Already, some of you people should be really relieved. If you're thinking, oh my goodness, I only need to close 200 deals to make my goal, the gears should start turning in your head. Do you know what I mean? So with the 204 gears, then what is your close rate? When a salesperson has a living, breathing person on the phone, we call that an opportunity in the operations world. What is your close rate? So if you're at 10% opportunity close rate and you need the 204 deals, then you need 20,000. Then you need then you need 2,000 prospects to convert into actual opportunities, right? You tracking? Now, what is your conversion rate from advertising to prospect? That's another thing. If it's a 1% conversion rate, then to get your 200 prospects, you need, what is that, 20,000? You need 20,000 clicks into your marketing material. Well, 20,000 clicks has a price, whether you're sending mailers or whether you're sending Facebook advertising, etc. But then that real price is your actual goal. So you knew what your end goal was, and now you know what your key performing indicators are. Am I generating enough leads? Am I sending out enough marketing material? Am I on budget? Am I spending, I think in the other video it was like $5,000 a month. So am I spending $60,000 in marketing to get my $1 million in sales for the year? Does that make sense? And a lot of you guys, I already know it because I've had these conversations in coffee shops and cigar lounges. A lot of you guys are like, blowing your minds right now. Like, what do you mean? Oh my goodness, I could just back into the math right now? Yeah, dude, math is math. This whiteboard right here, I could put it on there, draw the arrows and the dots and connect it, and then you're good to go as a small business owner. So run your small business like the big businesses do, and then all of a sudden, magically, you'll find that you're making money like a big business. Does that make sense? If you like this video, I want you to hit like and subscribe. If you have any specific questions, drop them down in the comments. I'd love to do some videos with you. Shoot me a message if you want consulting on your business, specifically how to grow from $1 to $6 million. We'll record it, we'll put it on YouTube, you'll get your answer. I'll see you in the next one.